What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the corner. As always, I am the DM, and today we have a look at a new game that's going to be coming out called The First Berserker Kazan. Now, I've seen a little bit of this game, and from what I can tell, this might have the potential to be a pretty top tier game. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, looks absolutely amazing, by the way. Very good voice acting.
This one we like. Stop. You really want to die? Then embrace the energy of the blade if you want to live. Your body is fully healed.
So one thing that I'm already loving about this, so obviously this is another Souls-like game, right? And one thing that I like about this game that a lot of other games don't do is the combat, the attacks, and the way that combat flows is a lot faster and a lot snappier. Games like Elden Ring, for example, the bosses, their attacks sort of have like this hold, and then when they actually release, they come out lightning fast. But all of the player attacks come out lightning slow. They come out extremely slowly, especially by comparison, right? That's why a boss can get like 4, 5, 6 attacks off, and then their entire recovery is long enough for you to get like 1 or 2 attacks safely, right, without immediately being hit. And so that's one thing that I like about this game over the other ones, or over like Elden Ring and games like that, is that the combat is just a lot faster and a lot snappier. And we'll see more evidence of that later on. Alright, so something I want to talk about here is you'll notice that during the fighting, he doesn't really dodge. And this is something that you'll see a lot going forward, is despite this being a Souls-like, there's not really a lot of emphasis on dodging. A lot of the emphasis seems to be more on like blocking and parrying. Now I don't know exactly like what the amount of health you have or like how much damage you take is, um, because there's just really none of that information displayed right now. But right here, you did see him dodge once, but the dodge as well was it was even faster than Bloodborne's light step, where if you're in a light load in Bloodborne and you dodge, you do this like kind of like this little hop to the side. But this one, you notice when he dodges, I'll go back and so right there, right here, you'll notice the dodge back is almost immediate, and you get a lot of distance with that dodge back. But you'll notice a lot of the combat is based more around blocking and parrying attacks than dodging the attack. And honestly, there's gonna be a lot of pausing. Honestly, one thing that it makes me wonder about is whether or not your dodge will even have invincibility frames. Because if the intent is not for you to dodge and to only dodge as a last resort or whatever, right? You're essentially supposed to block and parry rather than dodge. Then I wonder if that's going to remove the invincibility frames to kind of reinforce the block slash parry playstyle. Also, just the art style in general and the animations are really really good. One thing that I've noticed from a lot of I'm gonna pause it here for a sec. One thing I've noticed from a lot of games is the animations, while they'll be good, they won't be clean. And what I mean by that is there's another game that I saw. I'm trying to remember what the name is for it. Okay, I found it. It's called Soul Frame. So they said this was it said this was a gameplay trailer. This isn't a gameplay trailer. Oh my god, gameplay. I'm trying to find the actual gameplay of it because that will let me show what I actually mean. So okay, this is it. So this is a game that this game is what I mean by combat whose animations are good but not clear, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and mute this. But if we watch, right, you see all these particle effects and all these flashing lights and whatnot that make it very difficult to actually see what the animations are. And this is what I mean by animations that are good, but effectively not good at the same time. Whereas this game does not have that like flashiness to it, right? All the animations are very clear. Now, see, for me, so I'm a huge lore guy. I love lore in video games, and that's primarily why I play them. The thing that gets me right here with this opening shot is this right here. Like the moon and this like black hole that's inside of the moon, or at least I presume that's the moon, right? Like, what's the story with that? Why is that like that? I want to know. So you've got guard breaks, of course. And also, one thing I'll say about this game is this game, to me, looks less like a Souls-like game, and more just as an action adventure type of game. People use Souls-like a lot to describe pretty much any game that has any kind of mechanic that a Souls game has, right? Like, oh, it's got dodging, it's a Souls-like. It's got you lose your level up stuff or your experience on death. It's a Souls-like, and it's like that's not even true. Like, first off, those are roguelikes, not Souls-like. Roguelike came first. Souls games were roguelikes. Let's get this straight. Secondly, this game, from what I can tell, I haven't done a lot of research on it, but from what I can tell, does not feel like a Souls game, or does not look like a Souls game. I guess dodging, but like dodging doesn't make it a Souls game. right? I've also seen complaints about the walking animation looking stiff. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, just for a moment, I'm going to switch this to 20.25 and I'm going to mute it, right? And we're just going to watch. Now, one criticism that I see a lot is that, like, his head doesn't move, right? But here's the thing, his head does move. And your head, when you're, like, walking and running and whatnot, doesn't actually move, like, a ton, right? It moves very little, right? Um, and you can see by, like, uh, it looks stiff, is what some people say, um, which they don't know anything about animation or how people run. The way he's moving right here, this is like a light jog, right? Or like a very slow sprint, I guess. Um, so his body isn't really going to move a whole lot. Now, if he's running, I expect his arms to be moving a lot more than this. But right now, they're just kind of going up and down, maybe going back and forth a little bit. Very standard for like someone who's just walking. Same with the legs. Like the legs, they are totally fine. The legs, the movement doesn't really matter. I've seen people complain about how they look like they clip into the ground. But here's the thing about that: everything is going to clip through like scenery or terrain or something, unless there's a unless the hitbox is put like above it, right, or outside of it by a significant margin. It's going to look like it clips no matter what, right? So people that say that, like, oh, it doesn't look great, oh, it looks stiff, blah 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 blah, you don't know what you're talking about. The animations here look absolutely fine.
A tear, a soul accepted. Now you too will hear the memories of the dead.
Again, really good voice acting. And here we have I'll let this fight play out, but this fight sort of demonstrates what I mean by the combat is very, very snappy. All right, so let's go back. So I want to just go right here from the beginning, right? So you see all of his attacks, despite the fact that he's two-handing his weapons, all of his attacks come out very, very quickly. In Elden Ring, I wish I had Elden Ring pulled up so I could show you. In Elden Ring, when you power stance or when you have two weapons and you swing them, your attacks come out very, very slowly unless there's something small like a dagger or fists, which have extremely short range. Whereas here, he has two, moderately sized weapons. And the attacks, the swings come out very, very swiftly, very quickly, back to back to back. And right there, like when he guards, the guard comes up almost immediately. There's like very, very little delay. And of course, you got your charged L2s and R2s. Another thing I'll say that I like that I immediately noticed is that weather effects are not tied to the camera. Elden Ring, all of the weather effects are directly tied to your camera. If you go into Elden Ring and you find an area that's like snowing or raining, and you just very slowly begin to turn the camera, you'll notice that the actual particles, you're not turning around the particles are turning with the camera. So all of the particles are just a 2D texture, a 2D GIF, layered over the camera when you enter a certain area. In my opinion, I don't necessarily mind that. It's a little lazy, but it also helps to reduce the load on your PC, because it doesn't have to load it for the entire area. It just puts it over your camera. And there's also other games that do this as well. But I personally just prefer them being in the world itself rather than that. So this is like a mini boss from what I can tell, and he has that same like attack hold, and then it comes out, but the hold isn't as long as Elden Ring. Elden Ring, you're sitting there going like, when is he going to actually attack? When is he going to attack? And then he never attacks. And when you do it, when he does attack, you don't expect it. Whereas with this, the attack holds for a moment so you can see it, and then it comes out. Right? Like just right there. And I'll go back and I'll pause and everything after this. But you can see with the parrying, there are two types of parries. There's the, when you get that red flash and then the white flash. The red flash is probably like the perfect parry or whatever. So now that that's done, let's just gonna go back here a bit. This fight's a lot longer than I thought it was. So, right out the gate, you see right here, he comes out. And this is something I wish a lot more people do. I hate it when Souls games do this. Personally, because I hate when things are delayed. It makes it really hard for me personally to time it. I'm not saying that it's a bad design. I'm just saying that it's I hate it because it's hard for me to time. Now, so he comes up, and right here you can see he doesn't stop. This is something that all animators do. He doesn't stop and then start the attack. He goes into the attack as he stops, and that's something that anyone would do. And you can see he pulls back, he holds it for just a moment, and then he releases the attack. The parry comes out very quickly, right? And then, so he stops, he turns around, he goes, he holds, then releases the block. By the way, again, this is at 0.25 speed, right? Oh boy. So, right here, the parry, bam. Or the block, sorry. Right here. The block is nearly instant, right? So, and I want to talk about this stuff because this is stuff that I really like, right? And it's something that, as a Souls game, animations and whatnot are very, very important, and hitboxes are extremely important, right? So right here, you can see he starts his parry animation right here, right? And then from the videos, right, I can advance one frame forward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 frames, okay? I assume this is probably running at like 60 FPS. Let's get the stats for nerds. Yeah, 60 FPS. So that means in 10 frames, he parries it, right? That's actually really, really good. That his parry animation starts up, and 10 frames later, he parries the attack. And that's essentially from when the attack begins to move forward, which is exactly how it should. Elden Ring, I don't know exactly, but I feel like the window for your parry is something like 4 or 5 frames. Extremely small. Right? And so he comes with the second attack, and that one he just blocks. And then here comes the third attack, right? And right there, he dodges. Now, I want to, because dodging, obviously, is a thing you can do in this game. Let's see when he begins to dodge, right? So he stops moving right here. Okay, no, sorry, this is the... Oh, no, this is the... Okay. So, he pulls up the block. And when does... So, right here. So, this is probably the frame that the button input is registered. I imagine he probably presses it sometime after the block comes up. And then he dodges, and it looks like you get immunity frames immediately when you start to dodge. There's no delayed immunity frames like there is in Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring, when you press the dodge button, the dodge doesn't actually register until you release the button, which causes input delay, which is why a lot of times you'll be like, but I hit the dodge button and you still got hit and you didn't dodge, right? That's one reason why, is because it's on button release. Also, the actual invincibility frames that you get, your iframes, start after the dodge has already begun. So you can begin the dodge and still get hit, which is why a lot of the times it can feel very cheap. Whereas here you can see the animation, this right here, this very clearly goes directly through the player, but he doesn't get hit. He very clearly dodges out of it and is not hit. Now, another thing that I'm just now thinking of about this is that it's possible that this right here, let me get back to it, that this is not the actual attack. Because you can see the halberd is still up in the air. So it's possible that this right here is like one of these two frames is when the actual dodge, when the invincibility frames come into play. Because you can see that he shifts slightly. So he's in the dodge right here. And then he dodges out of the way. Total invincibility frames, doesn't get hit by it. Very, very, very clean. Very good animations. Very well-timed animations. So right here, you can see right here, I'm going to go back and so right here, he winds up the attack, right? He pulls it back. He holds it for just a moment and then launches it, right? And he goes back and see, he goes back and does the exact same startup animation as he just did. So you know he's going to do the exact same animation. This is what makes good animation, is when the enemy does an animation for an attack, and the next time he does that animation, it's the same attack. It's not a different attack, completely throwing you off, because in my opinion, that's not good animation. That's bad animation, and it's animation trying to trick the player with laziness, because they don't want to make another animation, right? But there you can see it's the exact same attack, exact same animation. Very, very clean, very, very good. Right? So there he goes, and right there. So right here we can see, so he pulls it back. He sort of hunches forward. He makes the attack. He holds that, turns it around. So the fact that he holds it means he's going to do a counterattack. He flips it, which means he's going to do the same swing but in reverse, which is exactly what he does. He holds that, right? He turns it. He aims the halberd up, so you know he's going to do an overhead attack. This is all very, very good. So once again, he pulls it back. You know he's going to do a thrust forward. You know the timing for that thrust. So you do a perfect parry, and then he dodges out of the second one. Right? Again, these ones, all the exact same animations. Parry, block, parry. Very, very good, very clean, very nice animations. This is what Souls-like games, or action-adventure games, or just action games, right? Let's just narrow it down to just action games. This is what action games should be striving for. Now, right here, we can see the running animation. The running animation, like I said before, I would expect the arms to have some more movement to them, right? You would expect to see the head move a little bit more. The body moves as you're essentially throwing your body from one side to the other, right? And that's exactly what we see here, is the body shifts from right to left. The arms move back and forth. The head bobs up and down. It moves back and forth with it. The hair as well reacts to the body, right? This is stuff that you would expect. These are things that make a good game, right? So right here, you can see all of those attacks, all of those parries were very quick, very rapid in succession, very much similar to Sekiro in the speed at which they come out. So here we have our bonfires, of course, or rest points, save points, whatever. Now I imagine right there they probably cut out like all the menu and everything for the actual bonfire, and they probably just cut straight to him exiting the bonfire. Probably because they want to avoid like spoilers and whatnot and want you to see it. That's also probably why there's no HUD. I imagine probably for this gameplay they probably have given the character like infinite health or whatever, just that way they can show it. It's right there. He turns off the lantern. Now, one thing, I'm going to pause here. One thing I like about video games is when enemies are beholden to the same mechanics and dangers as the player, right? So, if the player has a limited stamina pool, I would expect the enemies to have a limited stamina pool. I wouldn't expect them to be able to do what like Elden Ring bosses and enemies do, where they have attack strings that go on for something like 10, 15 seconds, like legitimately actually like 10 to 15 seconds, and then they have a recovery of like 2 seconds, right? Whereas the player can have an attack string of like four attacks, which are like the same amount of time, and your recovery animations are significantly longer, right? Or if you have mana, I would expect the enemies to also have mana. If there are falling hazards or spike hazards, I would expect the enemies to also suffer the same things as those would give the players. I say that because this fight shows it. So right here, you'll see this guy, I believe it is. No. Yeah, it's this guy. Walks over that and falls. I love it when video games do this. This is one reason why I love D&D and why I love Baldur's Gate 3 is because if you shove an enemy down a cliff, they're going to take damage, right? They have spell slots. They have limited actions, right? They're beholden to the same mechanics as the players. And that's probably what that clip right there was about because they immediately skip beyond it. Now here is another section that I want to touch on before it actually gets to it. You'll have video games. Actually, no, I'll let it play out and then I'll talk about it. So in Elden Ring, they have things in every boss arena that fully stops the boss from ever being able to go outside the arena, from being able to fall out of the arena. And this is to prevent them because a lot of them, like Margit, for example, have animations where they do a massive leap backwards, and that's to make it so that players can't actually hit them, right? It's to add to the perceived difficulty of the fight. However, if these boundaries weren't in place, the bosses would very, very often jump off the map. And we know that these are intentionally put there because you can look at like Dark Souls 1, like the Taurus Demon, for example, where there are clearly spots where there are broken parts of the bridges that the Taurus Demon can back jump off of. And in that same game, there are other spots where bosses cannot jump out of the arena. So these are very conscious decisions. Whereas this game, I don't necessarily, obviously, we haven't seen a boss yet, but we can see that enemies can just jump off of the map, right, and can be shoved off of the map. And I very much appreciate that. I love that when games have that. And that's another reason why I love this game. Now, it does seem like there's no jumping, and anyone who is a gamer knows gamers love our jump buttons. So I do hope that there's some way to jump, even if it's just like while you're sprinting, like then you double tap the button before the animation ends or some shit and you jump. I would like that, or just some way to jump, especially if this is on PC. PC, we have the keyboard. We can have any number of buttons tied to just one key, right? Now there we saw what I presume is a boss. I haven't actually seen that far into this video. This is actually about how far that I've seen before I pulled up OBS. But you can tell, again, from everything that we've seen, there's very little emphasis on dodging. However, one thing I want to point out right there, and I'm actually going to go back immediately, is this seems like some kind of finisher because it gives you invincibility frames. You'll notice that, like right here, whatever it is it starts like right here when you dash forward, right? So whatever this is, this might be like a riposte or something, but whatever it is, it gives you invincibility frames. Because you'll notice that this guy continues to attack you, and the sword goes straight through the model, and it just does not actually hit you or do any damage. And you can see right there, he parried and then got hit, parry, parry. So you can see that there is still actually, you can still see that that he is hit and whatnot. But yeah. So we got a big old bear. Now, this will be good because Elden Ring has a lot of bears. A lot of really big bears. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think they fight fair. Their hitbox is just too massive for how fast they move. I also hope this game doesn't have any one-shots. It doesn't matter what the game is. I see if something one-shots you, I see it, especially if it's like almost if it only doesn't one-shot you when you have an absolutely absurdly enormous amount of HP at endgame, I don't think that's fair. I don't find those kind of mechanics fun. I don't find them interesting. I think they are just nothing but padding, essentially. They're not actual difficulty because there's no actual counterplay to it. People won't stop fucking messaging me. There's no actual counterplay to it. And like you might say, oh, well, you can dodge. Very, very few times can a lot of these like grabs be dodged because a lot of the times the hitboxes either linger for an absurdly long time, such that you basically have to start your immunity frames the moment their active hitbox starts, or it's like a command grab and it will just grab you anyways because the hitbox is just massive, like, I don't know, a bear, like this. I don't like one-shot mechanics. They're stupid, they're bullshit, and they're fucking annoying. So I hope this game doesn't have any. But all of those attacks, by the way, very clean, very well paced. One thing you'll see in like Souls-like games is you'll have this big bear that will do this big, huge like preparation for this attack. The first attack will come out like after a delay, and then there will be like 7 other attacks that are like bam, 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 right? And there will be like almost no way to actually dodge it, right? Whereas this, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to rewind, right? This one, you'll see there's a delay, there's an attack, there's another delay, there's attack, delay, attack, delay, attack, delay, attack. There's none of these like delay, attack, 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 right? Okay, so yeah, that does seem like some kind of riposte right there. I'm going to go back. So right here, he's clearly staggered. He charges up, and then that charge up, that's probably like a charged L1 or something, and that's probably how you get the riposte. So once again, even though this bear seems to have like powered up or transition or something, the attacks are delay, attack, delay, attack, delay, attack, and every attack no matter the enemy, has the same delay, right? So all the attacks are all attacks seem to be a delay attack, delay attack, delay attack. That's what they all seem to be, which I like. It means that you can get down the animation for attacks and be able to actually prepare yourself, right? So there, they clearly skipped a lot of that fight. I wonder why. I'm not sure. Curious to know why. So we can see it loops back in on itself. This is good design. Good level design. You have your levels loop back on themselves. And obviously, to create the shortcut, you interact with the terrain. Nice little touch. I don't know, man. He's still moving. You gotta double tap. Like, you can tell whoever's playtesting or showing off this gameplay clearly is not an actual gamer, because, like, any gamer knows, if it's still moving, you gotta keep swinging. Or they're just a developer and they know that they're not gonna keep moving. Okay, so we got our first boss. Very cool cinematic. Very cool intro. And again, the graphics are absolutely stunning. I love these graphics. I love. I am honestly glad that they went for this, like, this style, this artistic. I'm glad that they went with this art style. Put it that way. So, I'm just gonna do this now. I don't care. So right from the start, I just want to point out delay attack, delay attack, delay attack. Delay attack, delay attack, delay attack, delay attack. And now, huge recovery, right? They just got, so here's the thing, right? The boss just got a massive 4-hit string, right? Where you had to respect it, right? Because, and here's the thing, I don't mind if bosses have, like, hyper armor and, like, poison and whatnot. That's totally fine. As long as they have, like, proper animation recovery, right? Proper time for you to actually attack back. But watch this, right? 4 big attacks that you have to respect, right? And then a massive recovery window. You get to get several hits in. That was like 4 hits. So 4 hits for 4 hits. The boss got 4 hits, you get 4 hits. We are beholden to the same mechanics. That command grab, right? But something you'll notice, there's a big delay. And then it went, right? So I'm gonna rewind. So so he goes over there. Okay, hang on. So here it goes, right? He goes back, so he runs backwards, right? And he does so in a way that makes sense, right? He doesn't just do this massive leap backwards. He puts one arm behind him, right? And it does like a spin on that arm to get more distance, right? So the distance he covers makes sense. And it also tells you he's probably preparing for like a jump, right? If something is making distance, it's probably about to leap forward. It's probably about to jump at you, right? So he jumps at you, so you know it immediately to prepare yourself, right? And so he jumps back, And then almost immediately afterwards, right, the delay was the movement backwards. That was your delay. And then he jumps forward. He has his arms out, so it's obviously going to be a grab, right? He grabs you. I don't know if he even tried to dodge there. So he grabs you and then slams you down, right? Big ol' recovery. Big ol' ape going, bar, 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 look at me. Now that's impressive. I'm not going to lie. Being able to block that, Elden Ring, Souls-like games, you wouldn't be able to block that. You'd have been expected to dodge. Look at that. Another attempted grab. He gets out of the way this time. Dodge it, or delay attack, delay attack, delay attack, delay attack. So there, that's interesting. That's good to know. You'll notice where he moved. He didn't just attack the front. He moved to the side and then positioned himself in such a way that his attacks will hit the crystals that are on top of him, on his back, right? And it stuns him. He reels back, right? So this clearly is a mechanic, right? A part break on him that stuns him, staggers him, causes them to reel back. I love that. That is such a good design. And you can see now the spikes that were on top of him have been broken off. Now this is probably going to send him into a rage, right? It's probably going to give him into like an enraged state. But it probably weakens him as well, right? You saw the staggering, it prolonged his stagger window so you could get more attacks in. Definitely gonna need to clean that up. So just to pull it back, right? So here, we'll pull it back to here. So he parries. You can see him holding his face. He goes and hits, and then this is what happens: is he goes back and then he holds this like default stance. He holds this stance for a moment. That shouldn't happen. Small, very minor thing, but it shouldn't happen. Because then you can see he immediately just goes back into it, right? He doesn't like go back into it. Like the animation for him to grab his face again isn't clean. It just snaps to it, like his entire pose snaps. Okay, so right there, you can see the bear also did something similar. I'm gonna rewind here. Where he does this like roar, where you can see the. I'm just he does this roar, and he has these like particle effects that come up around him. So I imagine this is probably going to be like a standard thing, right? Where when a enemy transitions or when a boss transitions, they're going to have this like aura. And this will signal to the player, good design by the way, this will signal to the player that this is a transition. They are about to transition and power up and gain a new moveset. Okay. So the same attack from before, but it's a little bit longer. Another command grab. Now, hold on. Let's go back because I want to see this command grab. I want to see what it's like, right? So he's about to do it. You can see his hand. If you pay attention to his hand opens up. He rears it back and then comes forward. Delay, then attack. Very good. That's something else I don't like. This troll walking where they just move towards you and you get hit. Don't like that. But you can parry it. So I imagine you might also be able to block it. Okay. Now that there's no real visual indicator, but there's an audio indicator. Like right before it happens, right? He throws that. Right before he's about to leap, there's an audio indicator that tells you, hey, something's about to happen, dodge. And that's exactly what he does. Because he dodges immediately out of the way. Very, very clean. Very clean. I love that. The boss fight did not show any glaring issues. It seemed very fluid, very nice. All of the animations were very well timed, very well paced. If there was not a clear visual indicator, there was a very clear audio indicator. And then there at the end, that's very interesting because the person you're playing as falls to the ground and dies, and then someone else comes up who looks exactly like you. That's interesting. That makes me want to that is more reason to want to play this game. I really, really want to. Now, does it say just 2025, so sometime next year? That's unfortunate. I really want to play this game. So yeah, that's the video for today. That was all that I really had to share. And yeah, so thank you all for stopping by my corner. I have been the DM as always, and I will see you all next time.